No. Yeah, no, but like the thing is, I do actually just want to own a house at some point in my life. Like, ideally sooner
Yeah.
rather than later, because it's cheaper than renting. I want a
True,
dog, which you
true.
can't get if you're renting, and also
Yes. Oh my god, pets.
it's also just
I
like
forgot about that.
gardening. I fucking love gardening, so that as well.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
can't
I
have.
think
Done.
yeah. This is good that we've got like two different sort of perspectives if we're doing this like as a little podcast kind of thing, I think.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
like I'm on the side of I wanna sort of flat hop a little bit, but you wanna
I
settle
think for
down
early
as
life,
soon as
man, that's actually
possible.
like genuinely a really
Yeah.
good plan. I'm just hoping
Yeah,
like,
I just yeah, I think I'd like to like if I'm doing something in politics,
mm,
then if like realistically, I'm probably not going to become like an actual MP,
mm.
but I might work for someone's constituency or do sort of journalism kind of
Journalism's
thing.
yeah,
So
journalism's a
sometimes so
nice job to do.
yeah. So if I yeah, because I just get paid to just like say my opinion
Talk, yeah,
basically, or just project other people's opinions.
literally.
So but the thing is, like, with journalism, then they might make you a correspondent for a certain area,
Mm.
sort of thing. And especially when you're starting off, then they do try and make you do something specific. But uh, and also with politics, if I start working for some random constituency,
Yeah.
then I'm gonna have to actually work and live in the constituency office.
Are there
So
not like laws in the UK for like where you can work if you're like, so say for example you're from like Bleep and you have to work in Bleep, whereas if you're from Bleep and you want to work in like Bloop, then you can't, or can you work anywhere?
uh, I think you can. Are you talking about specifically with politics?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, do you only have to work in like an
Um,
area that you've lived in for a long time, or can you literally work like? So right now, for
you
example,
can.
let's say you were born in like
Yeah.
Llanelli or something. You couldn't then
In
run
where,
for
sorry?
like Llanelli or something. Okay, fuck it.
Okay. Can we
It's
do
not the
like
best
a
example.
more
All right, like York. You're from
anglophone
York.
name, please?
Okay,
If
yeah.
I was from if I was
Okay.
from York,
Let's say you're from York, right? Then you couldn't
okay.
then like become an MP in like Gloucester, say, or can you?
Well, you can. You can it's usually called parachuting in politics, where they put someone who's like completely not from a certain area into just a completely new place. But it's like usually they'll try and put people if they're so let's say if we're talking about MPs, then like I can't think of an example, but like people you don't have to have lived in a certain place like to actually okay, so let's do Keir Starmer, let's say.
Mm,
He he lived in Surrey basically
sure.
his whole life. I mean
Yeah.
he worked a bit in and around London, but his constituency is Holborn and St Pancras.
Holborn.
He,
Nice.
I think it's Holborn or Holborn, something
Hogan,
like that.
probably.
How
Yeah.
you
Hulk Hogan.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't like he lived in a village basically
Right.
most of
Sure.
his life. But it's called parachuting when the party's really keen to get you into
Like a
being an
more major
MP.
constituent. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or like a safe seat,
Right.
basically.
Okay. Cool.
Like
Yeah.
he could like his where he actually was born, then he wouldn't win. Well, no
Oh,
Labour
fair.
candidate
Yeah.
could win there,
Oh, it's
basically.
like a Tory
So
safe seat. Oh,
yeah. So he had to go
move
somewhere else. Like
basically. Yeah.
you could move
I
somewhere
guess that
near,
makes more
maybe.
sense because if you're like a sick politician and you're just
Yeah,
getting fucked over by the fact that you're living somewhere where you just will never get
yeah,
voted in, that's kind
it
of
makes sense.
an
But
emotion
then, also people in a constituency would probably prefer to have someone who's actually
from
from
the
the
area
place.
because they understand like
Yeah, like
struggles and stuff or what they'll
or
need more
even
specifically.
yeah, or even Rachel Reeves, for example. Like she lived in the south of England her entire life, but her constituency is in Leeds,
Right. That's a
and
bit weird. Yeah.
yeah, so it's bad. It could be bad, like, it could be seen as bad
Sure.
that
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
like, someone who doesn't really get it from that area,
Yeah.
or someone who won't really, really fight for that constituency because
They
it's,
haven't
you
got
know,
that like passion because it's their like
yeah,
place. I guess it's like
it's
less
just a place that
territorial
they
as well,
work.
isn't it?
Yeah,
So if
but
it
then
feels territorial, you're more likely
yeah,
to fight for like the best future you can for your area.
exactly.
Whereas if it's somewhere else, it's just like, fuck it, I'm
Yeah.
just doing my job kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's the problem why voters might not like it.
Hmm.
But in a sense, also you've got to think that constituents also do employ politicians. So
Sure.
they
Yeah.
like if they think the politician doesn't have their best interests at heart, they can actually vote for someone else.
Just tell them to fuck off, basically.
Yeah, well, but also that is limited under first past the post because basically a Labour candidate will always win in Leeds, in the specific part of Leeds, especially
Sure.
that
All right. Yeah.
Rachel Reeves stands for.
That's yeah. I feel like
So yeah,
politics is
I
kind
might
of getting
get
muddied more now. Like just with, I don't want to say like Machiavel's, but it kind of feels like
well,
it
in a
always
sense,
has
it
been.
really
It
is.
always has been.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
that
It just
is the
feels.
nature of that is just the nature of power. Like Machiavelli, actually, a lot of people argue that Machiavelli wasn't
Wasn't
even.
Machiavellian. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't actually
Yeah.
Machiavellian. He was writing this book just describing what happens.
Like theoretical. Like yeah.
Well, no,
Information.
not theoretical. Basically,
Well, sorry, no,
like
literal. Like
he was
yeah,
just,
but
yeah,
it's
he was just describing what he saw in politics because he worked in the Florentine Republic,
Hmm.
which was progressive for its time because at his time then it was all kings basically,
yeah,
and German kings trying to invade Italy
Italy. Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
So he was probably considered a progressive in his era.
Yeah.
And arguably, a lot of people argue actually that he himself wasn't evil. He was trying to describe to people,
Yeah.
this is how bad politics is. We should do something
We
about
should
it.
reform. Yeah.
So it's like you should read Machiavelli's The Prince not like an instructions manual, which is what a lot of evil people have done. You should read it as a warning.
Like a what not to do. Yeah.
Yeah, what not to do.
It's kind of interesting as well because, not to get too philosophical, but
Yeah.
quite a lot of people have been saying the same thing recently with like George Orwell. It's like
1984.
Yeah, literally.
1984 mentioned.
literally. And it's like Animal Farm and 1984 are meant to be warnings to people, and people now are just like using them as buzzwords to actually do the opposite because they're just like, what's it called? It's not catcalling. What's it called?
I mean, but in a sense, that is what that is kind of what he intended. He wanted
but like,
people to.
I feel like the way people are using it
People
now.
misinterpret it. He was a democratic socialist. And
yeah, literally is what I'm gonna say.
Oh my god, you're giving me a free fucking bandage. You're like taking my God-given right to
decline bandages. Yeah, literally. It's like it's not the case. I find that so interesting though, how like people throughout the years have kind of like, I think especially in the modern day, people are like, ironically, like super aware of tyranny, but also very blind to it at the same time. If you told people that like 4 companies basically run the world, most people are like, nah, it's bullshit. That can't be true. When you actually look at it, that is the case.
Yeah.
It's quite terrifying. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's kind of a misinterpretation, certainly with the Western world, that like everyone's super on it when it comes to tyranny because the examples they've been shown as children are like, I don't know, like the USSR or like Nazi Germany or something, or just like very obvious versions of it, right? But truth be told, like right now, capitalism, and I'm not going to get too like, oh, capitalism bad, but it is like quite interesting how there is a new tyrannical system kind of almost being built, and how much of it is basically just down to the exploitation of the individual for basically profit of major companies.
I don't even think it's new, to be honest. Like, it's been,
you're not wrong.
It's emblematic of what has already been happening since like the Victorian period, basically.
I mean, there's definitely like a big stretch of it since the end of the Second World War, like since the rebuild of like the West, with like America basically just pumping out like every commodity you can imagine on like an ungodly level, and that's basically been happening since the 50s, and since then it's just grown exponentially. Like obviously it's not been helped, I guess, and there was like a whole like movement. Do you remember the Made in China movement, where like you probably where basically like really cheap stuff that was being made in China. Beforehand, it happened in Japan as well, and basically like, they could just mass produce. They could just mass produce like stuff. Yeah, cool. they could just mass produce stuff, and they'd basically be able to outcompete America, but it was at a lower quality. And so that then made America think like, shit, China's like farcing out like, let's just say like fridges or something. We've got to do the same, but on a higher level, and then they could make it more expensive. And so ultimately, like America kind of won that like debacle with like just superior
Well,
quality.
I don't think it's over
But
at
now,
all. Like,
yeah, I was just
I
gonna get
think
to that.
I think China is winning in that sense.
Now they
Like,
are, yeah,
at the end of the day, what China has embraced capitalism, basically. Like,
Mm.
it's not a communist country. It's not a socialist country. Well, it never.
yeah,
It
it
did
is,
have some
it is, but it's not.
communistic policies,
Yeah,
but it really wasn't because it didn't give control
yeah,
to workers in any sense at all. What China wants is to be able to exploit its proletariat as
mm,
efficiently as possible.
pretty much.
So
Yeah.
embracing capitalism, it might argue, oh, one day we're just going to take over capitalism by just dominating it. That
Mm,
is the argument
mm,
that that's what they're going to do. But at the end of the day, there really is there's no proof at all that that's what they're trying to do.
mm.
They haven't given up any control away from Beijing. I mean, they've got village elections, and they
Yeah.
are largely
Well,
free
I
and
mean, the
fair.
best example of that is probably Hong
it's
Kong
not
at the moment, is it not? Like the fact that
Yeah.
they're like not even willing to let go, basically become like, I mean, Hong Kong's an interesting kind of like bisection where it's like it is
Mm.
technically owned by China, but it does also have its own government, and so it's. I just think it's a really interesting like thing because China, like, due to the fact that for 100 years the UK owned Hong Kong as an overseas territory, it pretty much got accustomed to the British/Western kind of like free trade ordeals.
I mean, they
Ideals, sorry.
had red buses and everything. Like,
I mean,
in
literally,
Hong
yeah.
Kong.
It was basically a British overseas colony at one point, but like
Well,
without the
yeah,
tag.
it was.
But yeah, true. And so it's kind of interesting how it's changed, but how also those people are very aware of what kind of Western living is like. I think that's incredible because I mean, as much as I am like I'm Japanese and I'm fairly proud of that heritage, but basically after the Second World War, America came into Japan and changed a lot of the culture. Basically, they stepped in because they were like, okay, well, if we don't, then yeah, they wanted to reform basically the governmental system, so they made it democratic, which no one liked for a while. But the same thing happened in Germany after the First World War. Like a lot of people weren't open to democracy after that because they were just they weren't used to the system at all.
I think by and large people did accept it in the end. Like,
oh yeah, towards it, like even like Germany accepted democracy very quickly, but it was just initially everyone was like, "This is rubbish." But the same thing happened in Japan. Basically, is that like after the first few puppet elections, there were actual good elections, and the country basically got used to and is now essentially a Western country in Asia, I want to say, because I think that's partially why it's so fetishized, because it's like the middle ground between like Asian countries like China and Korea, which is slightly more like still what you consider like Oriental, which is a phrase that I don't particularly care for, but it is just the typical way people view it.
If we're talking about the Western view of,
yeah, that's what I want about. Like, it's not a phrase I've ever used personally. But,
it is useful, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, literally, it explains exactly what you need it to, which is the point of language.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny with that though, like archaic language that's still being used because I do part of my German course. I just do like a general like European languages course, so Spanish and French as well.
Oh, cool.
And we were talking the other day about how like race and ethnicity are like different things and how all that kind of stuff is perceived. And like in some languages, the word race and the word ethnicity is the exact same thing, and in others, it's very much a separated thing. I just think from a lexical perspective, that's quite interesting.
Which countries are like? Which countries say it as the same thing? Then?
So in Germany, it's basically the same word. It's synonymous. There are different words for it, but it is essentially synonymous. Whereas in the UK, the definitions differ. Or sorry, in English, the definitions differ a fair amount. Because race is like more to do with like bone structure and like that kind of thing.
Oh right, really?
Like not exactly, but that's
like
more
Aryan
of it.
or Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
more so, more so. Like not exactly, but
exactly.
it's not like eugenic type shit, but it is like closer to
Mm.
that, right?
I
Whereas
guess it probably
ethnicity
had its
is,
roots there.
yeah, most likely. Whereas ethnicity is more to do with like where you live and like what you've been, like what culture you've kind of been raised in, which I think's, yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay.
kind of interesting. Because more people these
I
days are
see.
like more comfortable with the term ethnicity, but I'd still
Mm.
say there is like I think
I
race is
mean, that
still
is
very
the
important.
polite way.
Yeah,
That is the polite way of talking about it. Like it used to be,
yeah, oh definitely, yeah,
like it used to be, and I hate to say it, but it used to be you call black people like coloureds and
sure, yeah,
things
yeah.
like that, and that was the polite way of saying it.
But it's changed
But
now, yeah,
it's changed now. Like so, for example, in French, then they used so they've taken sort of like the anglophone way of saying it, where they say les minorités ethniques, which is
sure,
basically
ethnic minority, yeah,
ethnic minority,
yeah,
which is the same in English, which is the polite way of saying it. Ethnicity is now,
yeah.
but they used to say les gens racisés, which is a bit.
Right, sure,
It's
yeah.
like a bit outdated, and that sort of has its roots in obviously
Like
race.
colonialism
So
and yeah,
yeah, well, I mean, just like lexically, then it
yeah,
has its
sure.
definition. It has its roots in the word race. So
That's quite interesting. Yeah,
I
because
guess it
yeah,
has
the move
evolved.
from race to ethnicity is an interesting one. I think just because it's like
Mm,
I do think there's like a partial degree of like the modern world just trying to be like more inoffensive to as many people as it can be, and that's actually like
yeah,
I
that's
do
good.
agree that's a
That's
good
good.
thing. I just wonder like how without getting to like Tommy Robinson, how far it's gonna go. Do
Oh God,
you know what I mean? Because
what
like
do you
I think
mean?
it's like I think it's like an awesome thing. Like genuinely, I do.
Yeah,
It's like quite interesting how like have you seen this
yeah.
recently
I'd
with
definitely be interested to see how far we go. Like, I guess, like thinking now, I
hmm,
guess I wouldn't really like me. I guess I've got to be self-aware here. Like, I am a white person at the end of the day,
sure,
so
yeah,
I don't see any problem with calling someone an ethnic minority. But I assume, like, following like if you follow the trends of what has been acceptable, then and how quickly it changes, it probably will
I
be
think yeah,
considered rude very
I think the
soon.
thing is like I can't see why that one specifically would be unless like ethnicity
Yeah,
becomes like a taboo
but then
topic for whatever reason. Because I know
but then
race
also
is
you got to
almost a
think,
taboo
yeah,
topic these days. Because people, when the second you hear the
yeah,
term race, people are like, oh, here we go. We're gonna hear some like Rosa
yeah, we're gonna
Parks or
hear it.
Tommy Robinson shit, like either one of the two,
Yeah.
which everyone's just like,
Well, I mean
man, it's just
Rosa
gonna be
Parks.
heavy. It's gonna be heavy.
I don't think.
But
Oh yeah,
it's like
heavy.
one of
Yeah.
those ones. It's just
I
like a
don't think
really
people go like,
it's a really
oh,
heavy
Rosa
topic.
Parks.
Yeah, I'm not meaning it like that, but I'm meaning more like it's a
Yeah,
really heavy topic. You know, you're gonna get into like some serious
yeah,
like discussions. Someone's probably gonna end up saying something absurd, you know,
yeah,
and it's just like, oh god, here
realistically.
we go, kind of thing, you know. But whereas I
Especially
feel
in
like
a, like
ethnicity
a,
is
yeah.
not enough people understand what ethnicity is to have that problem, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you explained
And
what it is to me like
yeah, I
today.
mean, even that, yeah. But it's also just like I think there's a lot of problems that we innately have as a society, maybe with like the term minority and how it's like embellished. But I think at
Mm,
the end of the day, it is just a factual piece of
it kind
data
of, I
to a
think,
point.
yeah, true. But I also think, in a sense, if we're thinking critically, if we're thinking about like what could what it could be perceived as,
Hmm.
it could be sort of like
Alienation.
defining. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's
that's
like
one
it
thing
could be
I've.
sort of defining someone's
Yeah,
image in the fact that they are different, rather than
dude, I've.
it's not anything. It's just like eventually, hopefully, it'll become just
Yeah,
you have blue eyes, you have green eyes, whatever.
literally.
You have dark skin, you have light skin.
Yeah,
So it sort of defines you by the kind of
that's
baggage, the
one thing
historical
I've
baggage
always
that comes
hated
with.
is getting
Yeah,
profiled actually, because like I'm one of those weird fuckers that's like I am everything. Like I am
yeah, yeah, true.
I'm fucking. I'm not even doing this to tick boxes or anything. Like, just be like a fucking sticker book. But like, I am
Mm,
like non-binary. I'm fucking pansexual. I'm a fucking immigrant. But I was also raised by white people for a portion of my life, and so like,
the
I
big is it the
understand what
biggest
it's like
portion?
to be a white person. I understand what it's like to be a
Yeah,
minority because I've been treated like a minority basically my entire life for different reasons. It's just like
yeah.
profiling is one of those things you just like you get used to, but it's not something that you want happening. So I
Mm,
don't know, like you've probably never
yeah,
really experienced this. I know like quite a few
yeah.
of my
I've never.
friends have because they're like LGBTQ or whatever. And like they've been walking down the street. Literally, me and like a close friend of mine were walking down the street in Swansea, and they were, like someone shouted us like, "Oh, gays aren't allowed in Swansea." It's like neither of us are gay. What are you
Really?
talking about? I've been called the F slur so many times in Swansea. Like it's
That's weird. Yeah.
it's like
I
not
guess
even like
being in
that.
London, I just don't really.
Yeah.
I don't. Being in central London, probably I don't see that, but I'm sure there's places
Yeah,
where
like London,
that
it's
just
not good for it either. It's not like bad
end
for
of
it,
the day.
but yeah.
End of the day, like it, London is just too big to really define it as
Literally,
it's either good or it's bad. It's like it will depend
London is just
on the
London.
borough,
Yeah,
which is like yeah.
it's a super like metropolitan city though as well. It's like like the
Yeah.
like Amazon rainforest, for example. It's like it's so fucking big. You're gonna find tigers in one area, and you're gonna
Yeah,
find like piranhas in another. It's just like, dude, everything's there. Like London's one of those. It's so metropolitan that like you can pretty much find any someone from anywhere in the world in London somewhere,
Yeah, genuinely.
which is quite sick. I think.
I think
like
it's got
that.
like the biggest mix of languages or something crazy like that.
Isn't more people in London speak like? Isn't it the biggest place outside of like a Hispanic-speaking country that speaks Spanish in the world?
Oh, it's something like I think I've
Something
heard
insane.
something like that. I've heard it's like technically it's the like 20 something biggest French city.
Fucking hell, that's
So
nuts.
yeah.
Dude, I know in like
Even
North
if you think
London.
about it, there's probably more people who speak like Urdu or
Yeah, true. Actually, yeah.
something where like Windrush generation kind of languages.
I know like North London has a very heavy like Moroccan population, which is quite sick actually. I like that. Like the fact that like you'll have like certain boroughs in areas that are like Swansea has a weirdly large Chilean population because of the Chilean because of the war in Chile that like Swansea opened up its borders for people.
I've met some people from Chile in Coventry. They were doing a talk about the Chilean community in Coventry. To be fair, so obviously you're gonna meet them.
Yeah,
But
sure.
he was talking about the coup there
Yeah.
basically, and like Coventry. It was like weird because a lot of them wanted to go to. Well, a lot of them didn't want to go to America, but so a lot of them wanted to go to yeah, the UK basically.
Yeah.
Probably just like BTEC America at this point.
Always has been.
And it always has been. So they wanted to go to the UK, but individual councils got to decide who goes in, who doesn't. So most cities were just like, we don't really have much extra housing stock for like a refugee population is essentially what it is.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it definitely is because they're
definitely a war. Yeah.
So, but Coventry was one of those cities that just welcomed them. So that's what. So probably I think they mentioned some place in Wales. Maybe they also mentioned Cardiff. I don't know about Swansea, but probably
Cardiff's
it was just one of those places with spare.
Cardiff's really metropolitan, to be fair. Like I'm always surprised whenever I go there because I like shitting on it. It's kind of like a rite of passage being from anywhere else in Wales to shit on Cardiff, but I know it's actually a really nice place. As much as it hurts to say, but
Cardiff Pacer. Why do you reckon that is?
It's literally just, to be fair, it is like for political reasons, i.e. Cardiff gets the most funding from the government and they kind of just end up spunking up a wall, making like just doing random shit, like art projects and stuff. Don't get me wrong, like, art projects are super important, and like I'm the last person to be saying that art is not important.
Yeah.
But like,
there are more important
dude, like when there's like one general hospital for 60 miles in mid Wales, like, dude, come on, like,
yeah,
I don't know. They're literally shutting down hospitals as well now in Wales. It's just like, dude, what the fuck? Why are you shutting them down? It's a mess. It's a mess. But yeah, that's why people are kind of pissed off at Cardiff. And it's also just like kind of jealousy as well, I guess. It's just like they've got the best bars, they've got the best shit. It's just
I swear this just happens like with every city if it's got a big city nearby.
Literally,
like, they've got some kind of rivalry. Like I know Derby and Nottingham.
Yeah, literally,
whatever.
That's more of like a football thing, though. That's like I don't know how much of that's like actual the cities hate each other. Like Manchester and Liverpool, for example, throughout the like Industrial Revolution, because they were both like developing cities and they were both developing very similar
Yeah,
things. There was
right.
just an innate kind of rivalry
Yeah.
because they were both doing similar things. But yeah, I think it's quite sick. I like the really random rivalries that like between cities because like now fucking what was it? Oh no, that's it. So this is actually not a real rivalry, but like a football rivalry. But like Crystal Palace, it's a London-based club in South London,
Yeah.
have like a massive rivalry with Brighton Hove Albion, which is like an
Mm.
hour and a half away on the
Yeah.
train. It's not they're not super close to each other. Like one's in London, one's on
Why
the
that is?
coast, and it's just because they played each other a lot in like important games, and they both just hated each other basically because of that. Just like that's such a bizarre one, I think, because
Mm.
there's some that just make sense. Like the Manchester Liverpool derby makes sense. Swansea
Yeah, that
Cardiff, I think, makes sense.
makes sense.
Like Glasgow Edinburgh makes sense. But
Yes.
like
Forgot
what?
about that.
Brighton, like, come on, man.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on, man. It's not even it dislikes the entirety of London either. It's just like one specific part of South London that is just a war zone, basically. It's
Yeah.
funny. I find that funny though when people like get really impassioned about sport. Like, not even in a bad way. It's just like
Mm.
I've always found it interesting.
People definitely. I think that I don't know what it is, but people just take it so seriously.
It's because it's a
Way
good
too serious.
for me. It's escapism. I just
Yeah, I
enjoy having
guess.
something to look forward to in the week, to be honest.
Mm.
And like nothing quite
I
does it
mean,
for me like a big sports fixture.
yeah, yeah,
And also, it's just something to obsess over that's not like important.
yeah.
And then it does. I know it becomes more important, but like if you think about it, it is fairly trivial. So like it's just something to obsess over. Like when you're switching off and like you've got something to enjoy your time with. Like I enjoy just like looking up transfer rumors or like fucking just random shit about my
Yeah,
club, and I'm just be like, oh cool, this is happening, this is happening, this might happen.
Mm.
We're playing these people, and then reading up on like how they're playing, all that kind of shit. It's just like it's also just like social lubricant. I feel like as well. Like most guys don't talk about shit that much. So guys
Yeah,
having
yeah.
football, I've made so many friends just talking about football.
It's just like something you can be opinionated about that's not gonna.
That's not
Well, it's
offensive.
not
Yeah,
like
yeah,
seriously. Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly, man. Like I think that's the main thing as well. Is it's like a lot of people can have opinion. You don't even have to like play football to a high level to have an opinion.
Mm.
So what I think is like
Exactly.
quite cool about it, because like obviously like people on like Sky Sports and like Gary Neville or like someone like that,
Mm.
people just call him a cunt because it's funny and he is. But
Yeah.
but like it's funny like how he can have an opinion and someone else that's like literally never played the game ever to like any level can also have an opinion on it and be just as valid. And if not be like correct when it comes to the test of time, you know.
Mm.
I just think that there's something so cool about that. Just like
Yeah.
the thing as well, it is just like universal. Like you can go to like Italy, Spain, fucking South Korea, like
It's just the most
anywhere,
popular.
like Bulgaria, and you can talk about football. Like, I might not even like know this motherfucker. We might even not speak the same language, but if they like come to me and I'm saying from Wales and they'll say like, "Oh, Gareth Bale" or something, they'll be like,
Say
"Yeah."
the word Gareth Bale.
Literally, I've had that before. I'm not trolling you. I'm not trolling you. They've been like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I was
Oh my god.
Japanese and Welsh." And they were like, "Oh, Gareth Bale." And I was like, "That's sick. That's so
You are
sick." Yeah. They thought it was him, but it was just quite awesome, really. I was like, "Oh, that's quite sick."
Yeah, you should just start walking around with like a little sort of man bun kind of.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Just try and convince people you're Gareth Bale.
Yeah, and just when they say you're not, I was like, "Why not? Why not?" Just get really aggressive. You know, do you see that guy in Nottingham who got like that fucking plastic surgery to look like David Beckham?
Oh my god, I did.
It's horrific.
That's hilarious.
So horrific. I just love that shit. Like when I've never really understood plastic surgery. Like apparently it's one of those things that like, oh no, sorry, I do understand it, but I don't understand why you get that much of it. But apparently it's one of those things you can genuinely get addicted to. It's the same like getting tattooed. You can genuinely just get addicted to the sensation of having the procedure done to you. And there was this lady in like Korea, I think it's just like Fan Face or Fan or something. And she got so much like plastic surgery. I think she was only like 50, but her face literally like looks like a, you know, those like fans you get, like the ones like the 3 rotors, look a bit like a wind turbine.
You're kidding. She tried to look like a fan.
No. But she got so much plastic surgery because she was addicted to it that she ended up looking like one.
Oh,
It was
right.
just like, oh my god, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's just actually kind of scary. Like, fucking hell. I've never really understood the whole like addiction to that kind of thing. I mean, I get how addiction works. I mean, I've been
Yeah,
addicted
I
to
mean,
things in the past, but
yeah, like drugs and stuff I can kind of get because it is just meant to be addicting, basically.
to an
But
extent, yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, obviously it's meant to make you have a good time, whatever.
But then people get addicted to like, yeah, they get a
Yeah.
chemical imbalance and then get addicted to it. Or it's just
But
a
then,
sensation they get addicted to.
yeah.
That's
What are the
another
other
thing
things people,
that's
what
actually.
are other
Go on,
what
sorry.
are the other things that people can get addicted to? Sorry. Like I
So you
swear
can get
there's
addicted to like tattoo, like getting tattoo procedures.
tattoos.
I know people are addicted to breaking bones. Like not personally, but I know of people that are addicted to
Oh,
breaking bones,
I have heard of
which
that.
is a bit of an
Yeah.
interesting one. There's also this other thing actually, where people like purposely dismember themselves because they feel guilty about
Oh,
having
wow.
like an active, like functioning body,
What the hell?
which is kind of interesting. The more I like addicted, like oh what flagellators, isn't it? Like flagellation, I think.
Flagellants.
Flagellants, yeah,
The flagellants in
yeah, dude. I mean, to be
yeah,
fair,
that's what I was thinking.
I do partake in that, but it's just like
You flagellate.
sometimes, yeah,
You're a flagellate.
part flagell. It's just part of being Catholic. Though. Like, well,
You get
it's not really, but I flag sometimes. It's just like a Catholic. It's just a thing. Like, if you hey, listen, if you sin, you gotta flag, bro. Like, just is what it is. Like,
Eat, sleep, flag, repeat.
pretty much. That's how it be sometimes. Because yeah, it was also a really weird thing as well. You know how like there used to be legal highs that you could buy. Maybe you don't,
Oh
but
yeah, what?
in like the 90s, you could. There were these things called like yeah. Well, I mean, poppers are an example of them, yeah. But like
they still exist.
but yeah, they're legal. They're completely legal. But like there was similar things that you could do back in the day, where you go to like these like jazz shops as they were called, and basically you could buy legal like jazz, like the music, yeah.
Right. Okay.
And you could just buy legal highs. So you could basically buy MDMA at the counter.
But oh wow! Basically, what? And that was in this country?
Yeah, in the 90s, yeah, and like early 2000s. But like basically, what you could do is they'd be like science experiments, quote unquote, and they'd like just they basically teach you. They'd just be MDMA. There was no experiment. They're just MDMA, right? And you'd literally buy this little like thing, and it said on them they were science experiments, and then you just go home and just take one, and you know you're fucking off your tits, right? And so the government basically eventually illegalized them. Because although they were being sold and they had on the packets like not for human consumption, which was the only reason they got away with it for so long, is because it said not for human consumption.
Right.
So they couldn't nail it. So they couldn't nail them on the it's for humans, obviously, because people are taking it. Because they could just say, oh well, they're not meant to be. You know, it would be like selling like hardware at like a hardware store, and like someone starts eating the nails. It's like, well, obviously you're not meant to be fucking eating the nails. Which is the thing they were saying.
But I think just when it comes to a point, then probably it was.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was for human consumption, right? And so what ended up being made was like, they ended up legalizing it anyway because they were like, okay, well, evidently you are trying to sell them for human consumption because they pulled up their websites and on them they'd be showing people how to take them, basically.
I see.
Yeah, so that's what they ended up nailing them on. But what's super interesting is you heard of MCAT?
No.
Okay, do you know Spice? You probably know Spice, right?
Oh, like the drug?
Yeah. That was initially from that kind of like area, that community that was being made. And since the government have legalized spice, basically they've allowed street dealers to get it, so it's just completely impure now.
Oh, do you reckon that might happen with vapes? That's what I think
possibly,
might happen.
Yeah.
If the government just, if their solution was with all these other like actually hard drugs, is to just illegalize it, then it does just mean people will just try and get it if people know about it.
See, what the interesting thing is though with spice is it was, I'm not going to say it was safe when it was being sold at the counter, but the spice that's now on the streets now is so much worse so much more like crippling to the individual. Like it would have just been better if the government kept it legal and then just taxed it
Yeah.
like a motherfucker. But by like putting it into basically prohibition, they've made it so there's no like regulation on it. You can't make sure that people are like safe/protected from it, and no one's liable. Whereas at least before it was
Yeah.
being sold by companies, so they would be liable for it. So if their product
Mm.
was like actually like making people into fucking spy zombies,
And you can someone you can blame.
then yeah, well, literally. Whereas if it's just a dealer, it's like, well, the individual has broken the law in theory. I mean, it's not really, no one really gets charged for buying drugs, but
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? But like, it's technically prohibited, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, I don't know. I find that really, really bizarre. The government would do that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously they kind of have to, but at the same time, it's like,
Yeah.
was it worth it?
But I think the thing is with the government, then they're not. Well, they are interested in what's best for people, but
Mm.
also with the vapes thing, then it is kind of just an easy, uncontroversial thing that they can
Like, win votes
just
for.
argue for.
Yeah.
They can. Well, it is about winning votes,
Mm.
but it's also about just looking like they're the party of law and order, because that is just
That's
what they're
true,
trying to
actually.
do,
Yeah.
basically.
I
So all the government really cares about in the election is, well, all the government cares about right now is winning the election.
yeah.
So I think the vapes thing, they could have come up with some like longer term plan that would, and like done some research into it and seen what works elsewhere with other similar things. But they just quickly rushed through and came up with this policy. And just because it's like, it's in a sense it's populist, like
Mm.
it's us versus vapes basically. So if you're not with us, then you're on the side of this thing that's being
Like,
consumed by
destructive.
children
Yeah.
and is destructive.
Yeah.
So yeah, what they're doing there isn't really, I mean, there's probably a lot of people in the government who have a genuine concern about these things, but I do think there are probably an equal number of people who just think, okay, this is an easy, uncontroversial thing
Yeah.
that we can make a big deal
Well,
out of.
I always found that.
We don't need to worry about the consequences of it, because what we care about is the election.
Because yeah, there's another thing which was kind of interesting as well with like illegalization is, you know, when they illegalized drill for a little bit, they made
Drill?
it. They like, yeah, you know, the music.
Wow, I didn't even know about
So
that.
it wasn't technically illegal, but they stopped certain artists from being able to do shows because in their songs they'd be like targeting people and shit. And so they're basically illegalizing art in theory.
Mm,
Which I was like,
yeah,
at the time I was like, didn't really give it much thought, but like since then I've been like, damn, they really like. And listen, I understand
yeah,
why they've done it because it is like a
yeah,
particularly violent like genre of music, and
yeah,
like a lot of the music was just about like I'm going to kill you on sight if I see you, which is like
yeah.
fair enough. But like, I still find that interesting. They've like they actually illegalized the people from being able to tour, and then like not only illegalizing them from touring in the UK, i.e. their jurisdiction, because they're British citizens, they've like not allowed them to do tours in like Germany and like other places where their music's popular. I think it's Netherlands and Germany that they're like specifically popular. That's another weird one. Drill's weirdly big in Germany and like the Netherlands. I'm not entirely sure why, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that was a good. Do we want to finish the podcast?
Can do,
then?
man. Yeah,
That was good.
that was a good convo. All right. See you. Bye bye.